Climate Change Mythbuster by MyZeroCarbon. The best time to act is now. Please remember to like and share this video and subscribe to my channel.
Hi everybody, it's Ingo here from MyZeroCarbon. Talking about climate change can cause some quite heated debates. Whether you are a climate change denier, consider yourself a climate change skeptic, or are watching this video hoping to find some answers to convince your friends and family, you're in the right place. I trust this video will address common myths, misperceptions and misunderstandings about climate change and motivate you to talk with others about climate change and to take climate actions. Right, let's get straight into it.
Myth number 1.
Only a few degrees of warming does not matter. The current warming is just a small blip in history.
One approach to counter the statement is to compare the human body with planet Earth to show how just a little amount of warming can be problematic for a complex system. Okay, so 36.9 degrees is our normal human baseline body temperature. Make that the same as planet Earth's temperature from 1850 to 1900. When our body temperature increases by 1.1 degrees Celsius, that's a fever. We need to take some action, like rest, drinking more fluid, etc. In the same way, planet Earth is now 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than it was compared to 1850 to 1900. So likewise, we need to take action to stop it getting worse. When our body warms by 3.6 degrees Celsius, that is life-threatening. If we just ignore a high fever, we may die. In the same way, if we took no action on global warming, it would become life-threatening by 2100. Let's now look at some data. Here is the temperature on planet Earth in the last 60 million years. Yes, temperature has been higher before, and yes, temperature has gone up and down before. But look at the time scale. It changes from left to right. On the left, we are talking millions of years. But this is when the Neanderthals appeared. And here is Homo sapiens. We need a planet that has the right conditions for human beings. Look at 2020. Today, the temperature is hotter than any time in the last 2.5 million years. And the projected temperature for 2100, if we do not take any action, would be the hottest for 4.5 million years. But it is not just the absolute temperature, but more so about the speed of warming. Planet Earth has never warmed this fast. During the last ice age, Earth was only a few degrees cooler than today, but making it nearly unlivable for human beings. The warming after the ice age took 12,000 years for 4 degrees Celsius. So people and nature had plenty of time to adapt. But in the last 100 years, we have seen 1.2 degrees Celsius warming. That is 30 times faster. If this car was driving at 70 miles per hour on the motorway, then what you just saw is what 30 times faster looks like. You may say, I can cope with 1 degree warming. Yes, some people around the planet can adapt or cope, for example, with the help of air conditioning. But some people in poorer countries cannot cope and cannot escape the heat. Also, on average, there is over 1 degree Celsius warming across the globe, but some parts of the world have warmed faster. Myth number 2.
Volcanoes emit more carbon dioxide than people.
Okay, so this graph will show the carbon dioxide emissions from 1850 to 2019 from human activities and volcanoes. The above myth about volcanoes emitting more carbon dioxide than human activity was true until about 1850. But since then, human emissions from burning fossil fuels has shot up by nearly 40 gigatons per year. At the same time, volcano emissions have plodded on at the rate of about 50 to 300 million tons per year. If this circle represents 100% of the annual carbon emissions in 2021, then this tiny white sliver is from volcanoes, and all the rest is from human activities. Or to say it another way, the carbon dioxide that all active volcanoes emit in 1 year is the same as we emit in just 3 days. But it goes even further than that. When volcanoes erupt, they release a mix of ash, carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. As the sulfur dioxide spreads out in the atmosphere, it changes to sulfuric acid, H2SO4. And this is actually causing more radiation coming in from the sun being reflected rather than warming planet Earth. So the overall effect of volcanoes is cooling. Myth number 3.
There is no scientific consensus on climate change.
Well, there was a statement available in 1997 and apparently 30,000 scientists signed it by 2017. But the statement did not say climate change is a hoax. It said there is no convincing scientific evidence that human activity will cause catastrophic heating. And you did not have to be a practicing climate scientist to sign the statement. Okay, so let's turn to the strong consensus on what is causing climate change. In 2013, a team of researchers systematically went through peer-reviewed science publications, making a statement on who or what is causing climate change, aka anthropogenic global warming. They looked at close to 12,000 science publications. Over 97% of all scientific publications that had gone through the scrutiny of other scientists before being published endorsed the consensus position that humans are causing global warming. So if this circle represents all 12,000 science publications, the tiny white sliver is those scientists that said human activity is not causing global warming. They did not offer a single coherent explanation. What is causing climate change? And this huge yellow piece of the cake represents the 97% of science publications who said that humans are causing global warming with a single coherent explanation. Carbon dioxide and other gases are causing the greenhouse gas effect, leading to planetary warming. We can go even one step further. Another team of scientists looked at the 3% of papers from the previous study, asking, what is happening with the 3% of papers that reject anthropogenic global warming? They found that those 3% of papers had methodological flaws and a pattern of common mistakes emerged. Oops! Or in the words of this global business news website, a review found them all flawed. So in conclusion, there is a very strong consensus among climate scientists that climate change is happening and that it is caused by human activities. Myth number 4.
Climate change will happen to someone else, not me.
Nope. A science publication in the highly respected journal Nature in October 2021 found that 85% of the world population are already impacted by climate change now. The research was done by the Mercator Research Institute and Climate Analytics, under the somewhat obscure title Machine Learning-Based Evidence and Attribution Mapping of 100,000 Climate Impact Studies. So the chances are you or at least somebody in your community has been affected by one of the following in the last 12 months. Extreme heat, wildfires, drought, flooding, or storms, hurricanes and tornadoes. Global warming fuels extreme weather events and will make them more intense, lasting longer and happening more often across the globe. The truth is, climate change will affect you, your family and your community, and it will affect you even worse in the future than it has done in the last 12 months. For many people around the world, climate disasters are already a reality. For example, there are already frequent flooding events in Bangladesh. It is feared that by 2050, 10% of the population, 18 million Bangladeshi, may have to flee river flooding and ocean rising. To stop this, we, the global community, must act together now. Myth number 5.
Governments will sort it out. I don't need to take any personal action.
Well, governments are doing a lot of talking, but are slow to act. Here just a small selection of global climate summits from the last 30 years. In 1992, we had the Earth Summit in Rio, where the world's countries adopted the Convention on Climate Change. In 1997, the Kyoto Protocol, countries first committed to limit and reduce their greenhouse gases. And 2010, the Copenhagen Accord. In 2015, the Paris Agreement, a legally binding international treaty on climate change. Its goal is to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, compared to pre-industrial levels. In 2021, COP26 is happening in Glasgow, and many more summits and reports. Or in Greta Thunberg's words,
Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero, blah, blah, blah. Climate neutral, blah, blah, blah. This is all we hear from our so-called leaders. Words. Words that sound great, but so far has led to no action.
And when Greta refers to no action, she refers to things like this. The world carbon dioxide emissions have grown by 64% since the Rio Earth Summit. And at the same time, there are things that you and I can do this year or even today. Buy an electric car or cycle more. Switch to a renewable energy provider and get solar panels on your house. Change your diet and eat a lot more vegetables and no or a lot less meat. Take the train and stop flying. The fact is, we all need to take personal responsibility. We all need to take personal action. Myth number 6.
Western countries aren't the problem. It's China.
Okay, if this box is 100% of the global carbon dioxide emissions in 2019, then yes, China is the largest emitter. But if you then look at the next 9 largest emitters, that is mainly industrialized countries, and combined they are larger than China's emissions, with the rest of the world only emitting 34% of all carbon dioxide. So we really need all of the top 10 emitters to make big reductions, not just China. However, look at the accumulated carbon dioxide emissions all the way since 1850. You find that the USA is the largest emitter, with other industrialized countries like the UK, Canada and Germany being responsible for large emissions. And again, the rest of the world is responsible for only 32% of all emissions to date. So these top 10 emitters have benefited most economically in the last 170 years. It is now only fair that they take action. It's their responsibility to take action. A third look at emissions data shows that it is mainly oil-producing countries in the world's top emitters per head of population. But the USA, with its large population, is not far behind, and also Germany emits more carbon dioxide per person than China. We need people in countries with large populations and high per head carbon emissions to make large reductions in their individual carbon footprints. Also, with China, you need to remember that China produces very large amounts of goods shipped to the rest of the world. So China is really emitting carbon dioxide on behalf of rich nations like the USA, the UK, Europe and Australia. In 2014, China had a net trade excess of exported goods equivalent to 1.4 gigatons carbon emissions. The UK imported goods equivalent to 158 million tons carbon dioxide from China and other countries. And the United States were the largest importer of carbon emissions with 352 million tons carbon dioxide. Myth number 7.
Carbon dioxide is plant food.
Well, yes, carbon dioxide is essential for plant growth. Dutch growers famously increase the carbon dioxide concentrations in their greenhouses to make tomatoes and other vegetables grow faster. But higher carbon dioxide alone does not guarantee more plant growth. They also need more water, macronutrients, and micronutrients. Faster growing plants are therefore less nutritious. Many plants do not react well to drought and heat. Key crops will be less productive as the world heats up. Myth number 8.
Solar panels are expensive and cause more problems.
Okay, let's start by looking at other energy sources. Crude oil prices are highly volatile, something that businesses and industry really do not like. The same is true for natural gas. And then this happened to UK wholesale gas prices in 2021, a price hike of 300%. The time of cheap oil and gas is truly over. And all this fossil fuel is highly subsidized by governments. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, published a report in September 2021, putting the figure of subsidy at a staggering $5.9 trillion US. At the same time, the cost of solar panels has plummeted, dropping by 80% since 2008. And the cost of residential solar panel installation has gone down by 21% since 2013. Here the cost of generating electricity by different means. On the left-hand side, renewables. On the right-hand side, fossil fuels. As you can see, gas is most expensive, costing between 12 and 29 euro cent per kilowatt hour of electricity. Even if you take the least expensive price for producing electricity by gas turbines, all photovoltaic PV solar roof installations at different scales are cheaper. So are onshore wind farms and most offshore wind farms. And here are some recycling rates for solar panels. Aluminium 100%, glass up to 90%, semiconductor material up to 95%. We need to and we can recycle these materials as they are limited and we want to keep future solar panel cost low. So one big thing to reduce your impact on climate change you can do right now is to switch to a renewable electricity provider. Myth number 9.
Your climate action isn't good enough.
Here's some real online rants I encountered on the My Zero Carbon Twitter feed. Your action won't cut it. Moral disaster. Anyone serious about the climate emergency should do X, Y, and Z. Your carbon footprint is obscene. Your actions are grossly insufficient. Surely this type of negativity is going to make anyone, heavy and light meat eater and vegetarians alike, feel discouraged and guilty. For goodness sake, let's encourage one another. My tips are: start where you are. Measuring your carbon footprint may be a good starting point. Start with climate actions that you find enjoyable and easy. Maybe that's cycling or buying local food. And whatever you do, start. Several organizations have suggested actions that you can do that make a big difference. Here a few quick comments. Live car-free. Well, steps towards that could be getting rid of your second car or setting a target to cut miles by 50%. Battery electric car. Do this if you can afford it, otherwise focus on the other actions. One less long-haul flight per year. Well, the less flying, the better, really. Renewable energy. Really simple. Change your electricity provider. Use public transport, or cycle, or e-bike, or walk. Your house. Insulate your home, loft and wall cavities. Vegan diet. Well, steps towards that are to eat less meat and less dairy. And always remember, when many small people in many small places take many small steps, they will change the face of the world. Myth number 10.
The world will come to an end by 2030 due to global warming.
No, it won't, but 2030 is an important milestone on the way to zero carbon. Why is that, I hear you say? Greenhouse gases have been accumulating in the atmosphere for the last 170 plus years. Carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases emitted today will have an effect on the atmosphere for 100 years and some a lot longer. So all this stuff our grandparents, parents and we emitted some time ago is still whizzing about in the atmosphere, contributing to global warming. So in 1958, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was 315 parts per million. Caused by human emissions, the concentration has been constantly increasing, making the global warming effect stronger and stronger every year, and reaching a concentration of 416 parts per million in 2021. The chain of cause and effect is very simple. More use of fossil fuels leads to more greenhouse gases, and that leads to more global warming. So this may come as a bit of a surprise or shock to you. The reality is, we the people of planet Earth have a set carbon budget of 2,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide, which we can emit. Of that, we have only 350 to 400 gigatons of carbon dioxide left. That is in total, all of us, for the whole of duration of what remains of this century. We need the carbon dioxide concentration to peak at about 450 parts per million, causing about 1.5 degrees Celsius warming, no more, avoiding catastrophic runaway climate change. Scenario 1 is business as usual, no reductions. If this box is 100% of the global carbon budget we have left, then at the current rate of emissions, we would use it all up by 2029. That's scenario 1, business as usual, no reductions to our carbon dioxide emissions. That looks like this when you plot global carbon dioxide emissions. We are here in 2021 and have 350 to 400 gigatons left before we reach the ceiling of the carbon budget. Sometime in 2029, 2030, we are going to smash through that ceiling, through that upper ceiling of the carbon budget. And thereafter, we would be set for a climate catastrophe. Let's look at a more hopeful scenario, scenario 2. Again, this box is 100% of the global carbon budget we have left. But instead of using it all up, we would make significant reductions in carbon dioxide emissions year on year. That way it would last until the 2050s, giving us more time to adapt and to transition to a zero carbon society. So with big reductions starting today and continuing throughout the 2020s and 2030s, we can stay within our carbon budget and below that ceiling, and then complete our transition to a net zero society in the 2050s. So we have the choice, no actions or big reductions. It will not work to say we will be zero carbon by 2050 and do nothing about it in the 2020s and 2030s. As Greta Thunberg said in 2019 at the Davos World Economic Meeting.
Our house is on fire. According to the IPCC, we are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes.
Let's think this through. You wake up in a burning house and a fireman appears from within the flames and shouts at you, "Quick! You've got less than 2 minutes to get out of here alive." What would be a rational response? Let me sleep? No worries, I've got fire insurance. Are you sure it's not 3 minutes? Or even, I suggest you collect more data to verify your estimate. No, the only rational response is to say, "Help, get me out." And then, with the help of the fireman, take some action and move. In conclusion, we need very urgent action to avoid climate disaster.
Okay, that's it for today. When leaving comments, please be respectful of others' views. I would be really interested to hear from you in the comments. How has this video changed your thinking? Will you do anything differently in response? Is there more information that you need to be convinced that climate change is happening and caused by humans? Is this video going to be helpful to have a conversation with climate skeptics? And if you suggest more climate myths in the comments, I will produce another video to address those as well. Thank you.
You can find out more about what you can do on this YouTube channel and its playlists on my blog and by following MyZeroCarbon on Facebook or Twitter. If you would like to see more videos like this, please support MyZeroCarbon on Patreon or LiberaPay for a regular donation or Ko-fi for a one-off donation. The link is in the description below. You can find more information and links to the sources of the facts in the description below. Please remember to like and share this video and to subscribe to my channel. MyZeroCarbon, the best time to act is now.